Good morning children, welcome to the chemistry online class. Hope all are doing good and staying safe. As you know, we are dealing with the chapter 15, Air Around Us. In the last class, we learned about the components of air and performed some activity to show that air is present everywhere around us. Today, we will learn about the availability of oxygen for animals and plants that lives in water and soil. As you know, all organisms require oxygen for their survival, including aquatic organisms. Aquatic organism means organisms that lives in water. Some amount of oxygen is dissolved in water, and this dissolved oxygen is utilized by aquatic organisms. Now, let us do an activity to know the presence of oxygen in water. Take some water in a glass container. Heat it slowly on a tripod stand. What will you observe? We can see tiny bubbles are coming from the inner surface of the container. These bubbles come from the air dissolved in water. As we continue heating, the water itself turns into vapor and finally begins to boil. Air is less soluble in hot water, but in the case of cold water, it holds more dissolved air than warm water. From this activity, we can understand that animals living in water use the oxygen dissolved in water. The organisms that live in soil also need oxygen to respire. Let us perform an activity to understand how do these organisms get the air they need for respiration. Take a lump of dry soil in a beaker or a glass. Add some water to it and note what happens. We can see bubbles coming out from the soil. These bubbles indicate the presence of air in the soil. When the water is poured on the lump of soil, it displaces the air which is seen in the form of bubbles. The organisms that live inside the soil and the plant roots respire in this air. We can see a lot of burrows and holes are formed in deep soil by animals living in the soil. These burrows also make spaces available for air to move in and out of the soil. However, when it rains heavily, water fills up all the spaces occupied by the air in the soil. In this situation, animals living in the soil have to come out for respiration. That is why earthworms come out of the soil only during heavy rains. Moving on to the next topic, that is how the oxygen is replaced in the atmosphere. We all know that plants prepare their food through a process called photosynthesis. How is the oxygen in the atmosphere replaced? During photosynthesis, oxygen is produced and it is released into the atmosphere. This oxygen is utilized by all the living organisms, including plants, for their respiration. So, we can say that animals cannot survive without plants, and similarly, plants cannot survive without animals. Because animals produce carbon dioxide which is needed for plants during photosynthesis. Thus, we can understand both plants and animals need each other, and the balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is thus maintained. This shows the interdependence of plants and animals. Children, have you seen a windmill? What makes the windmill rotates, and what are the uses of windmill? The wind makes the windmill rotate. The windmill is used to draw water from tube wells and to run flour mills. Windmills are also used to generate electricity. Air helps in the movements of sailing yachts, gliders, parachutes, aeroplanes, etc. Birds, bats, insects, etc. can fly due to the presence of air. Air also helps in the dispersal of seeds and pollen or flowers of several plants. Children, you are familiar with water cycle. Air plays an important role in water cycle. With this, our chapter was completed. Hope all of you understood today's class. Go through the video URL and attend the test question. I have attached notes as well as textual exercise questions. Copy the notes and download the textual exercise solutions. Study well and read the lesson well. See you in the next class. Until then, take care. Bye children.